Hi, this is a new show we have been thinking about for a long time here at Slytherin, and in this format we will chat with colleagues and friends from the entertainment industry to find out what their secret recipe is to make their players and viewers and readers have fun. All this in the informal setting of a kitchen, because this is how we like to do it here in Italy. And today we will cook a traditional carbonara with a friend of ours, Raffaele Colantonio, who's the creator of masterpieces such as Dishonored, Prey, and my personal favorite, Arx Fatalis. Alright, so welcome back. We're here with Raffaele Colantonio, and we are going to have a chat about your gaming history and some other interesting topics. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting.
So this is our kitchen. The first thing we do before starting anything is opening a bottle of wine. So Raffaele, you were born in France and you started a company when you were only 20, you were saying?
So I was born in France and then I worked for Electronic Arts. I was 22 or 23.
All right.
I was very lucky. I did a competition in a magazine, in a French magazine, to win a trip to Texas to test Ultima 8 back then. And I was a huge fan of Ultima. And so I did this competition. EA called me and they told me that actually they were not looking for someone to win a competition to go to play test the game. They were actually looking for an employee because they were creating an office in France.
Was it a fake competition?
It was a fake competition. So now it's been more than 20 years, so I'm sure we can say that it'll be fine. But yeah, it was a weird idea, and they were afraid of being overwhelmed with if they had put a normal ad for a job, it would, they would have like thousands of people. So instead they made this competition so that they could choose someone that they thought would work for them. And so I got interviewed and they selected me. So that's how I started in the industry at 23 years old.
Well, I guess it's very much down to the fact that back in the days it was like a pioneering industry, so there were no rules, right?
Exactly, there was no rule, yeah. So that's how it started. And then at 29, after some time with EA and some other companies, at 29 I created Arcane Studios.
Okay.
And then Arx Fatalis was my first game back then.
Cheers to Arcane Studios then.
Thank you.
It was a long time ago. I am a big fan of your first game. Actually, when you came in today, you said, I think I saw you some other times, and it was back in the days, 20 odd years ago.
You visited us in
I was working for the distributor of Joe Wood in Italy. So
there you go, that's why, okay.
So it's a long story for both of us. And then you basically started working on your own game, and back in the days, was it easy or how was it to start your own company in the 90s for video games?
I mean, it's always crazy, it's always hard. It was the first company, I had not much experience, we were not famous of anything. I had worked for EA, that was my only experience, and so it was a nice school, but it's not like I had a game under my belt. So it was scary, and at the same time I didn't know how hard it would be, so that did help.
All right, yeah.
When you start something with a lot of enthusiasm and a bit naive, and you don't know really, other people that saw me doing it, they were, oh, this is going to be hard. And my friends who started the company with me, they didn't know either. They just followed me as it seemed to be a fun adventure.
How many of you were there at the time?
We were 4 people back then, and we started with a little bit of my own money mostly, and money from the family. So we had like a small capital, which back then was about 150,000 euro, I think, all combined.
So not bad, right?
It's not bad. Yeah, it gave us about a year of starting something official. In a small room all together in a real office space, not from home, in a real official office space. We studied the engine and started to do art and took it very seriously. We were working really, really hard. Of course, making your own engine where there are 4 people, everybody in the industry thought we were crazy, And the first company we met was Microsoft.
Okay.
After 6 months, we had this demo, really cool demo, and we thought, let's meet Microsoft. Microsoft is a very nice company. They're very easy to meet. Surprisingly, you would think like they're such a big company, they would look at you, you know, like if you're small. But in fact, no, they're very easy to meet. And we actually even met some big guys at Microsoft. I was in England, you know, they were in a hotel. We showed the thing, we showed the demo, and they were like, that's pretty impressive. And then they asked a few questions, etc. And we went back to the office. We thought like, I think we got them. I think we have Microsoft. This is going to be amazing. And this is the first time I realized, you know, the difference between polite people and you know, and business.
I have to say the same happened to me all the time. Even today, we go to shows, we have meetings, and we nailed it, we got it. And then you go back home and nothing happens no news at all. Right. So today, just because you know we have to prepare some food, so we're going to prepare the carbonara as in the traditional recipe.
Okay.
As you know, traditional means that you know we've got like 100 different versions of the recipe in Italy, but we're going to do it like super simple and you know as you should do it in the center of Italy, like around Rome and such. So, and your origins are from the center of Italy, right?
I'm half Italian. Yeah, my mother was Italian. Yeah, so from close to Rome, between Rome and Naples.
So perfect recipe for you. Then the guanciale, which is not bacon.
It's not bacon. No.
Pecorino, which is not Parmigiano. Different thing altogether. Eggs. And pasta. This is it. This is one of the versions that, you know, some people do it with peppers, some people don't. We've got to cut the guanciale. How long did it take you to actually get the deal with was it Joe Wood at the time, right?
No, it was Fish Tank.
Fish Tank, okay.
Fish Tank. So what happened, and I've always believed in that, passion and connection with people and being consistent in what you do, right? Like so people know that I'm honest in what I do, that I'm a hard worker, and that I really believe in what I do, right? And they always know the type of games that I will do, right? And you know, I really scream that everywhere, right? So
this is you, your genre.
This is me, my genre, and so I believe as well that if you meet other people like you, then you recognize each other, and it's great for business because there's this passion that transcends all type of business and everything, right? Yeah. So we had tried to sell the Arx Fatalis for about a year.
This is after Microsoft's meeting.
No, that was 6 months after Microsoft meeting because
so
we started.
2 years in development.
No, it was like so we started, then 6 months later we had a demo, we met Microsoft, and then 6 months later we were about to close the shop because we had no more money, right? We had the money for a year. We paid ourselves, we paid some contractors to help us in art, etc. We did not know what to do because we had met at this point about 20 publishers, and in the industry back in '99, once you gone through the 20 main publishers, there's nothing left.
Back in the days it was like that. Right? Now it's a bit more...
Now it's more complicated. But back then it was pretty simple and also pretty desperate if you can't find anything. And also the business model most of the time was publishers were telling you what to do. You were not telling them what you wanted to do. Right? So in this case, if I had an RPG that nobody wanted, I was pretty much on my own and ready to close. So we were about to close and then I thought, let's try one last thing. So we sent our demo to an online magazine called TTLG. They were big fans of Ultima Underworld and Thief and these games. The guy there freaked out. He was like, "This is amazing! I want this game. I want to talk about this game, etc." So he talked about the game, and then Joystick came on board. Joystick was a big French magazine, and then this publisher called Fish Tank. There was this one guy there that was a big fan of the exact same games that I liked. He saw this and he immediately emailed us and said, "Hey, is this game still available?" And we were like maybe a week away from closing the company. And at the same time, Bethesda reached out as well. The same guy who eventually would buy us, Arcane, like 10 years later.
10 years later, yeah.
And his name was Todd Vaughn, and same thing. He said, like, is the game available? And I'm saying, yeah. And
all of a sudden, from zero to like a lot of options.
And we did the thing that everybody said don't do, which is we went public with a game that did not have a publisher or nothing, you know. And Bethesda was a little too slow, so and it went really fast with Fish Tank, that German publisher. Very nice, they were very enthusiastic about the game. They signed us immediately. And they gave us a great deal, by the way. We kept the IP. So we signed, and then Bethesda came back and said, "Hey, is the game still available?" I said, "Well, no, I'm sorry, we had to sign." And I never heard of him again.
So he never gave up.
Never give up. Always be consistent and passionate.
That's kind of interesting because a lot of things that you're saying now, like going public before actually, signing a deal and using your PR to sign a project and so on. It's stuff that is now, pretty common, right? So you almost pioneered a way of actually selling a game to a publisher.
In '99, I think the market was very locked. It was very simple. You go to the publishers lend you the money, they give you a deal that is usually pretty bad, and that's it.
We're ready to do the cheese.
Yeah, I can do the cheese. All right, let's do it. It's funny because as everybody, I've seen this kind of show on TV many times, right? But like, never imagined I would be on this side.
Okay. Back in the days, it was like the publisher to tell you what to do, right?
Right.
And then you ended up having a situation where you wanted to lead and you're the publisher to publish your game and so on. How did that change over time as well? I mean, your latest project, was it like, again, completely independent? And
It's been always like this. I'll tell you, the only little exception we did was for Dark Messiah, because Dark Messiah was meant to be Arx Fatalis 2.
Okay.
And the sales of Arx Fatalis, even though now people usually have heard of the game, back then we did not do big sales.
Okay.
So it was hard for us to sign a publishing deal on Arx 2. But Ubisoft wanted to use whatever we had, basically make their own, improve, add to their own franchise, which was Might and Magic.
Okay.
Which is, if you ask me, a little evil, but it's the way the industry is sometimes.
Quite a lot of times, right? We've got a working engine and it's a proven game mechanic, and you end up using that game mechanic to match it with a license or a franchise, right?
True, but in our case, we were feeling like we were authors. We really wanted to do what we wanted to do, So that was the only exception. How much should I do? More than that?
Of course.
Of course. Okay.
We need more. We've done the water. We've done the guanciale, which is going, and we've got everything else ready. So we should be just halfway through it. Is there anything that you would say that you're super proud of, that is like you feel like it's entirely yours, that you've taken from nowhere else, and it's like your signature thing? And because you've been attached to this genre for a long time now, but is there something that you think is is truly yours and of no one else?
Well, there's probably more than one, but like the first thing that comes to mind is, and because it was hard, was the first person melee combat that we developed in Dark Messiah. Most of all, back in the day where nobody really believed it was possible, everybody would do like third person. So I had a lot of people telling me it won't work, basically, or whether it's publishers or friends. So that's one I'm pretty proud of. It was hard to pull off. It felt very physical.
Do you see a lot of people using it now, and you say, "Oh, this is mine"? Is it?
Well, I think, and again, the thing is, sometimes there's an idea that comes together because there are several tendencies of ideas in different parts of the world. So I don't know if it's mine as much. I was definitely one of the first ones to push for that and to make it possible, and it made an impact in the industry. But then other people did it. Were they inspired by us, or did they already tried on their own first? That part I just don't know for sure.
Do you feel famous?
Do I feel famous?
Famous, like popular in the industry?
No. You know why? Because I think we never realized we had something. It took us 12 years to have people knowing our games. Before Dishonored, nobody would ever know us.
Okay.
And we started to have people recognizing a T-shirt with Dishonored, for example. We say, "Oh, I played this game." We would still be like, "Is it real? Is it Because it's not like for us. We started and we became So we always had that underdog vibe about us, and it stayed. It's I was surprised. It's pretty rare, frankly. But sometime I will go to a store, buy something, and the person at the cash register will recognize me or something.
Okay.
It doesn't happen. It happens like maybe 3 times a year. But when it happens, I'm always like very surprised, frankly.
Yeah. Because one of the things is, our industry is not filled with notable people, right? Yeah. Because we don't know the faces, and we don't see people and a lot, but we have, I think, maybe this is the big difference we have with Hollywood, that we don't have that level of popularity of some of the big creators.
Yeah.
And how do you use your name? You use your name for to get deals, to get to Do you have that happening a lot?
After I was done with Arcane and Bethesda and all that, I frankly was still in my mindset of so hard for me to get a deal, because I started with Arx Fatalis, it was super hard, and then Arc Messiah still hard, and all along, and then we had some deals cancelled, etc. So for me, it was just the way it was going to be. After I left Arcane, in my case anyway, it worked for like that. Like everybody was really welcoming, all the big groups, like the publisher, the investors, they were it was very easy actually to get money compared to what I remembered of, So that was the difference after a few games and after Arcane, and people were much more trusting.
Of course, because it's now that your name is like in the trailers and from the creator of and so on.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
even
like a fake thing like in Hollywood, like from the producers of, and it doesn't
right.
mean a lot.
Yeah, they were just investors. Yeah.
It does mean a lot for the players, right?
I don't know if the players understand that, but at the level of the industry, you would meet, someone who the third-party director of a publisher, for example. Even sometimes they would not know my name directly, but if they knew that they were going to meet with the creator of Arcane, they would be like, oh yeah, for sure, we're going to meet, and they were not going to be very scrutinizing my knowledge. They would just trust.
And we're almost there. There's another big debate about how you actually mix all the ingredients. You don't mix the carbonara in the pan, right? Everything is fresh, so you put all the ingredients in the bowl, and then you put the pasta in the bowl and just mix it very quickly so that the egg doesn't cook. Now this is going to be another thing that we'll cut the pasta here.
Oh, you crack it?
I'll crack it.
Wow.
I thought it was forbidden by law.
It is forbidden by law, but
Yeah.
I mistakenly put not enough water in the.
Okay.
So what I'll do is, can we cut this? I think we'll cut this, right? I ask forgiveness to all the Italians out there. And this is it. Right, so 12 minutes from now. Your latest project is with West, right? So how did that come to fruition? I mean, how did that happen?
Well, this time we, Julien, Julien Roby, who had been working with me with Arcane since the very beginning. In fact, he joined maybe a year into Arcane, and then he stayed all along. He was our producer. And this time he was also a fan of Ultima, so we wanted to, instead of like doing game in first person, like first person RPG like we always do RPG action, we wanted to do a top down, more like Ultima, so with a party, so different type of maybe more interactivity, maybe closer to an RPG than it is to a first person shooter. And so that's how it started. The world itself, the Western, was something that through one of the lead artists, Etienne, who was a big fan of Westerns, and I like Western too, but I also like fantasy.
Okay.
So Western was perfect because it had this very relatable kind of universe, very little bit like medieval. Everybody understands Westerns, guns, revenge, the land, farms, horses, etc. Everybody understands it. Duels, there are so many tropes that comes with. But the fantasy, though, is something that is interesting to me because it adds a layer of depth and more interesting things.
What do you think is the big differences between this project and and all the latest ones, all the big ones you worked with on the last with Bethesda and such?
Well, this one was new for us because we had done since '99 first person, and this time we went a little bit more towards the RPG side of things. Also, it's a much smaller team, and we did not worry at all about sales as much as we would when we were working on big games. When you spend something like $30 to $50 million on a game, making big sales is very important, but when you know that you are a more limited budget, and then you can be a little more creative and a little more interesting in your choices. Not to say that we didn't want to make money, obviously, but our our art approach was a little less compromised. We were literally having as much fun as we could, basically. So it's one of the truest game we could make.
Is it something that you, I mean, there's a big saying in Hollywood that you're only worth your latest movie, right? Because of the box office, I guess. You know, do you think that Weird West represents the Raphael of today?
I don't know. I've never saw it this way. You know, I think we are all creative, are some of everything they've done somehow. You know, and there's so many factors that can work. You know, surprisingly, Dishonored 1 was our most successful game, more than the second one, for example. Whereas the second one was technically a better product. It was more polished, more beautiful, and it was not as successful as the first one. And sometimes you wonder why, you know. You know,
I think it's a big lesson there that, you know, you don't know what is going to be successful or not. You know, you're doing your best, you work a lot, but then, you know, it's in the hands of the players, right?
Yeah, and even, you know, Arx Fatalis, years, like decades later, it's always listed in the special RPGs that came out. But back then, it was you know, nobody heard of it. I think it sold about 20,000 units.
Wow.
At a time where, you know, you needed at least 100,000 to start making money, kind of thing, you know.
Right, so we've got our carbonara, just the final touches.
About that.
That's great.
Yeah, see, I think that's enough.
You're doing very well for a French American. Your Italian origins are showing here.
See, I'm even trying not to pour the entirety of the thing, so that now there's a little bit of that deliciousness.
We should put in this here. Yeah, you're right. I think we've done very well with the recipe. This is pretty easy to follow, but we'll do all the big cooking show where we put all the ingredients in a final screen where everybody can see that. But thanks for joining us at our show, and hopefully you've sort of delivered some ideas to someone watching who wants to be inspired by your story.
I hope so. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, guys. I'll see you next time.